So do your challenges. But with the right platform, you can turn those challenges into opportunities for innovation. Enter InterSystems Iris for Health, the only data platform engineered specifically for the unique demands of modern healthcare. Iris for Health empowers developers to rapidly create and scale the industry's next breakthrough applications. You get all of the benefits you already rely on with InterSystems solutions, but with added features designed for healthcare today. Features like transaction processing, analytics, and interoperability. A universal, extensible healthcare data model. Fire-based solution development. Proven healthcare interoperability standards, and more. All out of the box, so you can realize value and build breakthrough applications fast. Contact us to fuel your next healthcare breakthrough with InterSystems Iris for Health.
Мы гордимся своими достижениями. Технологии InterSystems – это надежная гарантия сохранения здоровья, безопасности, процветания и развития общества. Мы обеспечиваем поддержание здоровья людей, стабильное развитие бизнеса, контроль государства за качеством предоставляемых услуг населению. К нам обращаются, когда требуются кардинальные меры для повышения производительности работы, быстрый и надежный доступ к большому количеству данных, их обмен и анализ. И партнерство с InterSystems позволяет этого добиться. На наших технологиях разработаны наиболее важные приложения, работающие по всему миру. Продукты и технологии, которые мы предлагаем, надежны, понятны и способны развиваться вместе с вашим бизнесом. Если у вас есть цель, с InterSystems вы обязательно достигнете ее. Объединяя наши усилия, мы добиваемся высокой эффективности в работе.
С 12 по 15 марта в футбольном манеже. Новейшее медицинское оборудование, технологии и препараты на 26-й международной выставке здравоохранения Беларуси. С 12 по 15 марта. Футбольный манеж, проспект Победителей, 20.
It matters that we connect healthcare, that we enable access to patient information and bring providers and patients together in a seamless, coordinated way. That we improve solutions for healthcare organizations like providers, payers, application vendors, and device manufacturers. For over 39 years, we've been making breakthroughs around the world with more than 500 million people in 80 countries on our solutions. This is what we've made possible, all in the name of improving care. InterSystems, the power behind what matters.
As the amount of healthcare data continues to grow, so do your challenges. But with the right platform, you can turn those challenges into opportunities for innovation. Enter InterSystems Iris for Health, the only data platform engineered specifically for the unique demands of modern healthcare. Iris for Health empowers developers to rapidly create and scale the industry's next breakthrough applications. You get all of the benefits you already rely on with InterSystems solutions, but with added features designed for healthcare today. Features like transaction processing, analytics, and interoperability. A universal, extensible healthcare data model. Fire-based solution development. Proven healthcare interoperability standards, and more. All out of the box, so you can realize value and build breakthrough applications fast. Contact us to fuel your next healthcare breakthrough with InterSystems Iris for Health.
Мы гордимся своими достижениями. Технологии InterSystems – это надежная гарантия сохранения здоровья, безопасности, процветания и развития общества. Мы обеспечиваем поддержание здоровья людей, стабильное развитие бизнеса, контроль государства за качеством предоставляемых услуг населению. К нам обращаются, когда требуются кардинальные меры для повышения производительности работы, быстрый и надежный доступ к большому количеству данных, их обмен и анализ. И партнерство с InterSystems позволяет этого добиться. На наших технологиях разработаны наиболее важные приложения, работающие по всему миру. Продукты и технологии, которые мы предлагаем, надежны, понятны и способны развиваться вместе с вашим бизнесом. Если у вас есть цель, С InterSystems вы обязательно достигнете ее. Объединяя наши усилия, мы добиваемся высокой эффективности в работе.
С 12 по 15 марта в футбольном манеже. Новейшее медицинское оборудование, технологии и препараты на 26-й международной выставке здравоохранения Беларуси. С 12 по 15 марта. Футбольный манеж, проспект Победителей, 20.
It matters that we connect healthcare, that we enable access to patient information and bring providers and patients together in a seamless, coordinated way. That we improve solutions for healthcare organizations like providers, payers, application vendors, and device manufacturers. For over 39 years, we've been making breakthroughs around the world, with more than 500 million people in 80 countries on our solutions. This is what we've made possible, all in the name of improving care. InterSystems, the power behind what matters.
As the amount of healthcare data continues to grow, so do your challenges. But with the right platform, you can turn those challenges into opportunities for innovation. Enter InterSystems Iris for Health, the only data platform engineered specifically for the unique demands of modern healthcare. Iris for Health empowers developers to rapidly create and scale the industry's next breakthrough applications. You get all of the benefits you already rely on with InterSystems solutions, but with added features designed for healthcare today. Features like transaction processing, analytics, and interoperability. A universal, extensible healthcare data model. Fire-based solution development. Proven healthcare interoperability standards, and more. All out of the box, so you can realize value and build breakthrough applications fast. Contact us to fuel your next healthcare breakthrough with InterSystems Iris for Health.
Мы гордимся своими достижениями. Технологии InterSystems – это надежная гарантия сохранения здоровья, безопасности, процветания и развития общества. Мы обеспечиваем поддержание здоровья людей, стабильное развитие бизнеса, контроль государства за качеством предоставляемых услуг населению. К нам обращаются, когда требуются кардинальные меры для повышения производительности работы, быстрый и надежный доступ к большому количеству данных, их обмен и анализ. И партнерство с InterSystems позволяет этого добиться. На наших технологиях разработаны наиболее важные приложения, работающие по всему миру. Продукты и технологии, которые мы предлагаем, надежны, понятны и способны развиваться вместе с вашим бизнесом. И если у вас есть цель, с InterSystems вы обязательно достигнете ее. Объединяя наши усилия, мы добиваемся высокой эффективности в работе.
С 12 по 15 марта в футбольном манеже. Новейшее медицинское оборудование, технологии и препараты на 26-й международной выставке здравоохранения Беларуси. С 12 по 15 марта. Футбольный манеж, проспект Победителей, 20.
It matters that we connect healthcare, that we enable access to patient information and bring providers and patients together in a seamless, coordinated way. That we improve solutions for healthcare organizations like providers, payers, application vendors, and device manufacturers. For over 39 years, we've been making breakthroughs around the world, with more than 500 million people in 80 countries on our solutions. This is what we've made possible, all in the name of improving care. InterSystems, the power behind what matters.
As the amount of healthcare data continues to grow, so do your challenges. But with the right platform, you can turn those challenges into opportunities for innovation. Enter InterSystems Iris for Health, the only data platform engineered specifically for the unique demands of modern healthcare. Iris for Health empowers developers to rapidly create and scale the industry's next breakthrough applications. You get all of the benefits you already rely on with InterSystems solutions, but with added features designed for healthcare today. Features like transaction processing, analytics, and interoperability. A universal, extensible healthcare data model. Fire-based solution development. proven healthcare interoperability standards, and more. All out of the box, so you can realize value and build breakthrough applications fast. Contact us to fuel your next healthcare breakthrough with InterSystems Iris for Health.
Мы гордимся своими достижениями. Технологии InterSystems – это надежная гарантия сохранения здоровья, безопасности, процветания и развития общества. Мы обеспечиваем поддержание здоровья людей, стабильное развитие бизнеса, контроль государства за качеством предоставляемых услуг населению. К нам обращаются, когда требуются кардинальные меры для повышения производительности работы, быстрый и надежный доступ к большому количеству данных, их обмен и анализ. И партнерство с InterSystems позволяет этого добиться. На наших технологиях разработаны наиболее важные приложения, работающие по всему миру. Продукты и технологии, которые мы предлагаем, надежны, понятны и способны развиваться вместе с вашим бизнесом. И если у вас есть цель, с InterSystems вы обязательно достигнете ее. Объединяя наши усилия, мы добиваемся высокой эффективности в работе.
С 12 по 15 марта в футбольном манеже. Новейшее медицинское оборудование, технологии и препараты на 26-й международной выставке «Здравоохранение Беларуси». С 12 по 15 марта. Футбольный манеж, проспект Победителей, 20.
It matters that we connect healthcare, that we enable access to patient information and bring providers and patients together in a seamless, coordinated way. That we improve solutions for healthcare organizations like providers, payers, application vendors, and device manufacturers. For over 39 years, we've been making...
С 12 по 15 марта в футбольном манеже. Новейшее медицинское оборудование, технологии и препараты на 26-й международной выставке «Здравоохранение Беларуси». С 12 по 15 марта. Футбольный манеж, проспект Победителей, 20.
Доброе утро, уважаемые дамы и господа. Позвольте приветствовать вас на открытии второй международной научно-практической конференции eHealth «Цифровая трансформация системы здравоохранения Республики Беларусь», посвященной современным тенденциям цифровой трансформации и стратегии развития национальной системы здравоохранения. Впервые конференция eHealth была организована Министерством здравоохранения в 2018 году.
and it was conducted within the framework of the forum entitled Healthcare of Belarus 2018. This year's conference is going to feature the attendees from the Ministry of Healthcare of Belarus, World Healthcare Organization, Belarusian experts taking part in shaping Belarusian national electronic healthcare system. We are also pleased to welcome among the attendees of the conference foreign experts and representatives of renowned global companies are going to introduce their innovative developments and solutions based on ICT technology, successfully used in the domain of medicine to boost quality and availability of medical services for the citizens. The conference's activities are going to last 2 days. Today we'll see first and second parts of the plenary session. Wednesday, March the 13th, will feature a theme meeting entitled Technological Aspects of Digital Healthcare Creation, Solutions, Toolkits, Standards. Once the first part of the plenary session has been complete, there will be a ceremony of official opening of the 26th International Specialized Expo Healthcare of Belarus. We would like to invite all the attendees to take part in that solemn ceremony. To continue the plenary session, I would like to invite you back at 2 p.m. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite to take the seats in the Presidium Valery Malashko, the Minister of Healthcare of the Republic of Belarus, Chairman of the Organizing Committee of the Forum. Clayton Hamilton, the Head of Digital Healthcare Division and Innovation under the European Regional WHO Bureau. Your applause, please. Dmitry Shutko, First Deputy Minister of Communication and Informatization. Vyacheslav Shila, Deputy Healthcare Minister of the Republic of Belarus. Людмила Макарина-Кибак, the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Healthcare under the National Assembly's House of Representatives in Belarus. Sergei Yenin, Managing Director and CEO of Information Society, public organization. So, esteemed ladies and gentlemen, I would like to give the floor to the Minister of Healthcare of Belarus, Valery Malashko.
Доброе утро, уважаемые дамы и господа,
коллеги.
Действительно значимым событием текущего года является столетие здравоохранения Республики Беларусь. Мы гордимся тем, что сделано здравоохранение Беларуси для своего народа. Гордимся признанием наших достижений мировым медицинским сообществом. В основу государственной политики Республики Беларусь в области здравоохранения положен принцип создания условий, позволяющих каждому человеку реализовать свое право на охрану здоровья на всех этапах жизни. Республика Беларусь – одна из немногих стран Европейского региона, где сохранена бюджетная система финансирования здравоохранения. Общая сумма расходов на здравоохранение составляет около 6% ВВП. При этом государство обеспечивает основную долю расходов 7,5%. Система здравоохранения нашей страны в своем роде уникальна. Исходя из норматива бюджетной обеспеченности на одного жителя, предоставляется населению все виды медицинской помощи, первичная, специализированная, высокотехнологичная, паллиативная и медико-социальная. При этом здравоохранение является достаточно эффективным, что подтверждается высокой позицией в рейтинге авторитетного американского агентства Bloomberg. Для нас это важный показатель, так как основан на эффективности использования финансовых средств здравоохранения. Укрепление здоровья населения не указывает, что система здравоохранения производит здоровье наиболее эффективным способом при финансовом. Сегодня здравоохранение страны обладает практически всем спектром медицинских услуг, обеспечив высокий уровень доступности медицинской помощи, что отражает сильную социально-политическую развитие Беларуси. Так, Беларусь занимает одно из ведущих мест в мире по доступу населения к медицинским услугам. 25-й позиции в рейтинге самых комфортных для материнства стран. Входит в 50 лучших стран мира по ведению беременности и организации рода. Коэффициент младенческой и материнской смертности является одним из самых низких в мире. Согласно докладу ООН о человеческом развитии 2018 года, Беларусь занимает 53-е место в рейтинге 189 государств по развитию человеческого потенциала и вошла в группу стран с самым высоким уровнем человеческого развития. Однако сегодняшнее достижение – это только ступень для совершенствования действующей системы охраны здоровья. Основной задачей белорусского здравоохранения было, есть и будет обеспечение доступности и качества оказания медицинской помощи населению. Эти два понятия столь динамичны и изменяемы в наш бурный век развития технологий, что говорить о пределе недосягаемости вряд ли возможно. Но эта цель, основной ориентир и показатель эффективности работы здравоохранения любой страны. Куда направлены наши усилия? Каковы стратегические направления и тактические действия по оптимизации деятельности системы здравоохранения Республики Беларусь? Первое. Это перераспределение ресурсов на более эффективное направление деятельности. И прежде всего на первичное звено. Новые вызовы и новые технологии индустрии здоровья определяют переход к новой модели организации первичной медицинской помощи, комплексному, интегрированному оказанию медицинских услуг с ориентацией на пациента. Второе. Переход на качественно новый уровень использования современных медицинских технологий. И здесь на первый план выходит персонифицированная медицина в полной мере обеспечивающая сочетание высокого профессионализма врача, принципа доказательной медицины и ее профилактической направленности. Наши усилия на инновации, на разработку и внедрение передовых методов, технологий профилактики, диагностики, лечения и реабилитации, включая внедрение в подготовку медицинских кадров пациент-ориентированных технологий. Еще одно очень важное направление – создание системы управления качеством
Quality management for medical care is also an important building block. This is one of the ways to assess the quality of the HCPs and the system as a whole's work.
Фактические данные о здоровье населения и деятельности организаций здравоохранения были, есть и останутся основой политики и стратегии развития не только отрасли здравоохранения, но и социально-экономического развития государства. Это кто не владеет объективными данными, тот не владеет ситуацией, а значит не способен решить ни тактических, ни тем более стратегических задач. Другой вопрос – сбор фактических данных, их достоверность и прозрачность.
Collection of statistical data, their validity, their transparency, a brand new way to represent. Data is ICT. We'll live in the era of digital transformation, of very quick digitization of all domains of economy, multifold extent of information growth that is provided to the citizens of Belarus is one of the founding building blocks of its development. Belarus has taken to the stage to digitization and digital transformation of the economy. The strategy of 2016-2022 is aimed exactly at that. The presidential decree on the development of digital economy has been recently signed. The Ministry of Healthcare is at the forefront of digital economy creation. We are on the path to create a national digital healthcare system. We are not starting from scratch. The country has taken a number of significant steps to switch to digital healthcare. We've implemented and successfully operating the national-scale systems, the Belarusian Cancer Registry, Diabetes mellitus, tuberculosis registries, HIV patients register. These are the Diabetes mellitus and Cancer Registry have been recognized as by European experts, by international experts, as best practice in the European region. We are using integrated comprehensive information system at all levels, dispensaries, polyclinics, hospitals, electronic digital recipes technology is implemented, telemedicine is on the rise. digital paperwork has been introduced. All of this will help contribute proper rendition of medical assistance at workplaces of HCPs. The collection of information about healthcare status of various individuals centralized in a centralized manner will boost the efficiency of the industry at large. However, the standardization is a must. The principal objective of the healthcare system is overcoming the existing fragmentation of IT solutions and the introduction of prompt and unimpeded exchange of data between various healthcare institutions. In other words, we're supposed to create a centralized digital system of electronic healthcare, digital healthcare system. To that end, the country has adopted and is developing the concept of digital healthcare development until the year 2022. The activities under that initiative will involve the introduction and unification of information registries and systems, creation of a single space based on the EHR, single electronic health record for every patient. There will be a personal file, a personal office of the patients with all the files, decision-making system, decision-making support system, and information system based on several AI components. Any data, especially personalized data, must be protected at all times through proper legislation and appropriate technology. And this is just the outset of the development of Belarusian digital healthcare. Further down the line, the system will be appended by the most demanded applications and services for the doctors and patients. Moreover, the country already features the expertise of the kind. Flow, mobile application for women's health, developed by Belarusian developers, is a leader in App Store rating in the USA. Dear colleagues, digital healthcare is a true revolution for both HCPs and patients. The establishment of digital healthcare system will touch upon everyone's lives, and that's 9.5 million Belarusian citizens, 50,000 doctors, and over 70,000 paramedics. Every manager, every decision maker, every policy maker, regardless of the form of property, of the form of incorporation. We must also prepare the society in technical terms. Why does that matter? Digital technology, digital healthcare opens up conceptually new opportunities and revamps, brings the interaction between all stakeholders to a brand new level. Each of us as a patient becomes an active stakeholder in our own health, in maintaining our own health. And this is a critical building block in terms of relations, doctor to patient. The doctor will receive the information about the patient in a timely manner. This is what people's lives depend on. The managers of healthcare institutions will receive high quality, true to life system of quality management to be able to respond to any challenges to public health. This will help utilize the resources in a much more efficient way to optimize the expenses on medical services and pharmaceutical provision, which means it will optimize ultimately the healthcare spending in the budget. Dear colleagues, in the age of globalization, we're moving towards the elimination of borders, especially between close neighbors. For this reason, we consider digital healthcare not just as a part of digital healthcare of Belarus, but also part of the similar system of neighboring countries. Already today, within the international cooperation framework, we are rendering telemedical consultancy services, specifically during medical interventions, remote learning, distance learning for HCPs, exchange of donor organs and tissues, as well as pension for the disabled people. To facilitate information exchange at public level, we are proceeding from the international standard of management and integration of digital health record. HL7 is at the core. It will become the part, the national segment of information of digital healthcare will become part of the AEU system. Today, the successes of the digital transformation of the countries rest upon our own efforts, the preparedness to exchange experience, full-scale cooperation. We're talking about harmonized policy in data exchange, principles of data identification, harmonization of the legislation in terms of in digital healthcare domain. I'm positive that digital healthcare in every country, Belarus included, is supposed to be geared towards the needs of the people. It must be focusing on the new scale of continuity, decision-making in the Republic of Belarus. That means boosting the efficiency of healthcare system at large. Thank you very much for your attention. I would like to wish all of us and all of you fruitful activities. Thank you very much. Good morning, dear colleagues. We'll continue our activities, and the next presentation is by the first deputy of the Minister of Communication and Information, Mr. Dmitry Shitko. We'll be talking about the methods of interdepartmental cooperation within the digital healthcare system. Good morning, dear colleagues, dear friends. Well, first of all, I'm pleased to welcome all of you at this representative forum on behalf of the Ministry of Communication and Informatization of the Republic of Belarus, because we believe that today the system of healthcare is one of the key industries where digital transformation is actually happening. The system of healthcare it involves matters which are definitely concerning every person. Matters of health, matters of longevity, matters of preserving life quality for a long term in terms of career and personal life. For this reason, we together hopefully see a big potential to see the advance of medical technology to help traditional medicine and help make our daily life better, of higher quality and longer. The topic of my presentation is interdepartmental interaction. Well, it's a pretty broad term out there. You can construe it in technological, bureaucratic sense. But please let me share a number of considerations that we're guided by when we're creating the digital healthcare system. The Republic of Belarus is rightfully proud of its successes in ICT. Our country has put together a cutting-edge information infrastructure. Various communication technologies are on the rise, are thriving. Looking back on the international rankings, we can see that the Republic of Belarus ranks 32 globally in ICT development. For a country this small, with average income per capita, it's a very good indicator. We're running various ambitious projects such as Generation 4 cellular networks. We're testing 5G equipment, and we hope to be among the first countries that are going to deploy this technology commercially. We are implementing satellite communications. Belarus is geared towards this sort of indicators, European indicators, because we're ranking #1 in the countries of former Soviet Union, of the CIS. Definitely, our country has spent a lot of money and effort to create the efficient e-government system. According to the UN assessment, we rank 39 globally. So again, I would like to emphasize that we became, last year, we entered top 40 of countries with high level of e-government potential. Only 2 countries out of these top 40 are middle-income countries. So with low expenses, we've achieved quite high results. But I would like to also say that digital transformation is an endless process, it's an ongoing process. We can never say that today we have, well, done everything. We've screwed in the last bolt, we've installed and mounted the last server, so the digital transformation is complete, we can move on. This is not the case. This is an ongoing process, this is ongoing analysis of what's happening in the country, this is ongoing continuous analysis of what we do on our own, and search for new and efficient ways of interaction. So today we can can enumerate the kind of systems that are up and running in the country, and we are positive that we're going to be developing some of them in the future. They're going to become very important components. They're going to interact with the digital healthcare system. First and foremost, this is the harmonized Republican data transmission network, which unites all the operators, all the cell phone providers, all the stakeholders. That means that in every point of our country, the person will be able to receive a service that he or she wants at the time, including digital healthcare. Second is Big Cloud. A dedicated report is to be featured throughout the second session. I don't want to elaborate too much on that, but for several years already, we've been trying to put together a high-standard cloud solution, which will optimize infrastructure expenditure when implementing and deployment of digital healthcare industry education. So definitely we're infrastructurally ready to tackle these sort of challenges. Now, from the viewpoint of e-government system, we have created this important all-country united information system, open key management system, which are resolving two important objectives. First of all, it's interaction of information systems between various public bodies. And secondly, this is the harmonized system of identification across the country. Without it, well, we cannot really say about efficient digital healthcare system. Today, we're also working together with the colleagues, we're working on the integrated service settlement process, which is going to be completed by the creation of identification card. That's an ID card, digital passport, including the biometric passport for citizens' identification, which is also of very clear importance and value for healthcare system. It is very pleasant for us, very important for us to realize that since last year, since the first forum of Belarusian healthcare, we've progressed a lot towards the implementation of our plans. We've prepared the right technical paperwork and we're running international tender, which is going to be concluded by awarding a contract to create a national digital healthcare platform, which is going to be involved and tightly intertwined with all the systems that I mentioned. It will become a practical implementation of our potential in this domain. It is very pleasant that in less than 1 year, involving a broad panel of experts, foreign ones, domestic experts, IT companies, public body representatives, we've been able to identify and to imagine, to picture the shape of the system, which is very much in line with the demands on the part of the Belarusian society and with the technological basis and foundation created in the country. It is clear that the implementation of this kind of integrated project would not be possible without ongoing, continuous interaction and cooperation between various departments and entities. It is clear that the medical domain is running the show here. However, communications people, information security people, and ultimately other experts will have a role to play. For example, interdepartmental cooperation will mean the unification of all information systems. First of all, it's population registry-related systems. This is the system related to social protection, because these domains are probably, they run in parallel, they cannot be divided. The system of healthcare, education and social welfare are the three systems we believe must go hand in hand. And education, not just in terms of educational services, but also in shaping and putting together the pool of experts who are going to be servicing the systems in the near future. I would like to say that the existence of these high-scale, large-scale projects is not exactly widespread. I mean, there's not too many projects of the kind in our country. So yes, there is a certain deficiency of staff that we experience already. For this reason, already today, the system of education must respond to our call, must start prepare the people, the personnel, the staff who are going to be able to actively use and efficiently use something we're creating today. The system of digital healthcare is not just going digital for some administrative procedures, or I don't know, just an emergence of electronic health record. E-healthcare is a direct way to using big data, artificial intelligence in our country, because by summarizing, by aggregating, by analyzing the data that is accumulated by the system, we can progress in medical research, in personalized medicine enhancement, in telemedicine, That means these are the prospects which are being opened by this level of technological solution. The projects which are being addressed by the healthcare system will come in large numbers. The esteemed minister has already mentioned that several very important high-class systems have been established for narrow directions. Our mission today is to unite them to a single system, to allow interoperability and synergetic effect. I've mentioned AI briefly, and I'm positive that artificial intelligence in medicine today, well, these are the two phenomena, the two concepts which must always go hand in hand. Medicine is one of the 5 domains where AI has been tried and true to be efficient, proved to be efficient. The role of our startups, of our science and innovative companies comes to foreground, who can promote and offer their solutions. Definitely healthcare is a very sensitive domain. It's very close to every single one of us. Healthcare is probably one of the domains where a lot of professional data is circulating. I'm sure you understand that we're actively talking about the law on personal data protection, which will directly impact the interdepartmental cooperation in terms of information systems. So we urge all the participants, all the attendees of our conference and IT community at large to become actively engaged into the discussion and consideration of these issues, because our job is to provide an ironclad way to protect personal data, but on the other hand, to not create any hindrances, any impedance to resolve various technological tasks. Sometimes we hear concerns of the kind. So summarizing, making a brief summary of what I've just said, we can state that today, when we're shaping the digital healthcare, this will engage the experts in various profiles, various directions, various departments. The first year of running this project has shown that we are prepared to cooperate and collaborate. And we must convince our society that this will be the case for years to come, and we will complete our work successfully to the best interest of every citizen of the Republic of Belarus. I would like to wish fruitful debates to all the participants of today's conference and high professional successes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dmitry. Esteemed participants, if there are any questions, you can file them in a written form to the Presidium. Or there is an open mic, several open mics in the audience, so please feel free to come forward if you want. Next presentation will be delivered by Clayton Hamilton, leader of the Digital Healthcare and Innovation Directorate of the WHO. I would like to thank the regional WHO Bureau for the assistance that its employees have contributed to the development of digital healthcare as a concept and all the advisory services provided earlier. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Доброе утро, дамы и господа.
I'd like to start by thanking Minister Malashko and the Ministry of Health of the Republic of Belarus and the organizers of the event who have made the digital transformation of healthcare in Belarus. My name is Clayton Hamilton. My apologies, I will be speaking to you in English today. I'm responsible for leading the initiative of the digitalization of health systems in the WHO European region. My experience in working with the United Nations spans over 20 years, and I've had the privilege to work directly with a number of countries in their development of their national digital health strategies and infrastructures, their engagement plans, and guiding their implementation in digital health. As the Minister and our colleagues from the Ministry of Communication and Informatization have said, there's no doubt that digital technologies are having a profound and a disrupting impact on healthcare and how national health systems will operate. How and where healthcare will be delivered to the citizens, and the role that public and private sectors and research communities will play in shaping future health policy and the delivery of care. Over the next 15 to 20 minutes, what I'd like to do is take you through a short journey on what countries broadly within the European region are doing in the sphere of digital health, and what WHO's perspective and what it can bring to the development of digital health within the region and globally. WHO, as you know, is the global guardian of public health. And here, supported by the country office here in Belarus, we have a very strong presence to ensure that we achieve the mission of WHO, which is to attain
the highest level of health for all people. Underpinning all we do is a shared effort to build strong and efficient health systems and achieve universal health coverage. What you may not know is that in the field of digital health, WHO has a very strong and active presence. Globally, it's developing consensus around standards for digital health, monitors and reports on global progress, and sets global priorities and establishes international partnerships. Regionally, within Europe, we support countries directly in their national digital health implementation, working with international partners both in public and private sector to address a range of health systems challenges and priorities. And then finally, we examine emerging technologies, many of which have already been mentioned, and the impact of their introduction into health systems within the region. The 53 countries of the European region cover approximately 900 million people, and that we have a wide diversity of languages, culture, and distribution of wealth. The dots on this map represent the country offices as well as the regional office in Copenhagen, Denmark. Of these 53 countries, we have a distribution of 34 classed as high income, 12 as upper middle income, and 7 as lower middle income. It's quite understandable with this incredible distribution of wealth that when people talk about digital health, they can inherently mean completely different things. We see some of the most rudimentary SMS-based digital exchanges across the region to some of the most advanced AI and genomics implementations in health systems. What is striking, however, that the challenges we meet in these countries are remarkably similar. They extend to the challenges met by public health practitioners, ministers of health, and clinicians. Universal health coverage, as I mentioned before, is a commitment made by all countries of the world that all people should have access to the health services they need without the risk of financial ruin or impoverishment. This concept is embodied in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 SDGs, as they are known. And they are bounded by the 5 principles of people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership, which span across economic, environmental, and social dimensions of sustainable development to ensure that no one is left behind. Goal 3 addresses health and well-being and has universal health coverage as an underlying target. This broad and very sweeping intervention by the United Nations is being mobilised for health through 3 1 billion targets. 1 billion more people protected from health emergencies, 1 billion more people enjoying better health and well-being, and 1 billion more people benefiting from universal health coverage. So what does this all mean in the context of digital health? We see digital health as actually extending and strengthening health systems in 5 major ways. Firstly, extending the scope, transparency, and accessibility of existing health services to populations. That is, making them more accessible, the existing health services we have today. We also see them as widening the population accessing these health systems, including to marginalised and underserved populations. We see digital health improving public health surveillance and actually feeding back into primary health care to improve quality of treatment outcomes. We see it, as we've mentioned, facilitating training of the healthcare workforce. And then finally, where we often see most interventions in the media is offering innovation and creating efficiency gains in the operation of health systems, how we can more efficiently deliver healthcare to expanding and ageing populations in the region. Member states largely understand the strategic importance of digital health, but progress across the region is uneven and challenges remain. What we see is 6 major areas in which countries are actually experiencing challenges with the introduction of digital health. Firstly, with the setup, scale-up and governance of digital health services. This is one of the key areas where countries are actually most finding they're challenged. The complexities and interdependencies of establishing services and governing them are not well understood. Regionalisation also within countries is a major issue, and integrating different systems. Secondly, communication on digital health is often what we meet as being a very under-prioritised effort. Yet populations often become uneasy when they don't understand the extent of the transformation which is actually taking place. Therefore, WHO advises a much greater effort in terms of communication to support digital transformation. Privacy, security and digital consent, which we've heard also this morning, for the use of data is a key challenge, one in which we are putting the patient at the centre and where we need to understand exactly where information can be responsibly shared or not. The demand for data-driven technologies in health, such as artificial intelligence, is also putting more focus on improving fragmentation and interoperability issues. So we must not let ourselves be fooled that artificial intelligence will definitely revolutionise healthcare, but is entirely dependent on the quality of data forming the algorithms which will be used within health. It can also be difficult to justify investments in technology when there are a number of demands which health ministers are actually facing. And again, we need to be able to measure and evaluate the impact of such technology implementations in our health systems in order to ensure that they're effective and that the public benefits. And finally, issues of trust. Trust between public and technology and houses of sensitive information, trust between entities within the health system, and finally, trust between primary healthcare services and the general public. So there are multiple dimensions of trust, and we must not underestimate exactly how important they are as success factors for digital health. So we see that health decision makers have a number of concerns. We understand that digital technologies offer a lot of promise, but we also understand they cost money, and quite often they cost a lot of money. So the challenge we have in front of us is, do investments in digital health reflect their comparative value add to health and health systems? Quite often the answer to that is yes, but sometimes it is not, and we need better mechanisms of being able to evaluate the return on investment for digital health. Will adopting digital health increase inequities in social welfare? We need to be extremely cautious that in the race to implement technologies, we're not actually increasing the so-called digital divide in populations. We heard that there isn't a lot of resistance in Belarus to the implementation of technologies. This is certainly not the case in many other countries where general practitioners generally resist change. And we understand that there's a long-standing stature in a lot of healthcare provision, and that those changes themselves can be very difficult for them to understand, and we need to properly address change management issues with healthcare professionals, including in training. Privacy, security and consent are key concerns, and again, how do we strike an acceptable balance between sharing and protection of personal data? And finally, how can healthcare professionals and their risk exposure be reduced when in many countries there isn't a certification mechanism for apps or other implementations of technology? So to tackle these challenges, WHO Europe has introduced a special initiative by the regional director known as the Digitalisation of Health Systems Initiative. And there are 5 major aspects to this that we feel we're actually approaching countries to provide the best possible support. They include reforming health service delivery and access, empowering individuals to better manage their own health and well-being, improving the operational efficiency of health systems, enabling transition to integrated person-centred models of care, and finally, technology and innovation facilitating achievement of key public health objectives. We believe that these 5 major areas are where most countries are needing the greatest level of support and where we will have the greatest level of impact. So what are countries doing in digital health? Well, the majority of them are actually still spending a large amount of their time on digitalising health information. So again, there is still, despite a lot of the promises, there's still a lot of health information which is paper-based in the region. So a lot of effort is going into not only digitalising that, but integrating a lot of the existing clinical registers, the electronic health records and medical records which may exist out there. And that can often be a very long task. Secondly, they're implementing national digital health services, primarily e-prescription systems, e-cardiology, e-vaccination systems. They're often also linking supply chain management of pharmaceuticals to e-prescription and investing also in digital radiography. Scaling up mobile health and telehealth applications is also a key aspect, again, one which we've heard here this morning. Slowly investing in data analytics for health. So this again is becoming a key area where a lot of focus is being placed, actually mining the value out of the health data which we have. And finally, addressing the privacy and security concerns through new models of thinking, consent and sharing of health information. Those countries which are maybe slightly more advanced are dealing also with the next generation of topics. So firstly, they're establishing biobanks and experimenting with personalised medicine, or precision medicine as it's known. We see them also establishing big data initiatives such as national data lakes, a whole data availability spanning right across the intersections of ministries of health, communications, technology and public health. This allows algorithms to have a much better approach to actually accessing data in a more standardised way, meaning that the healthcare system will be able to benefit. There's a lot of talk and also some implementation on blockchain technologies. And again, in terms of ensuring privacy and security, this is seen as being one of the biggest technologies and changes within the health system. And finally, experimenting with clinical and primarily clinical applications of artificial intelligence, chiefly in terms of today oncology diagnostics, machine learning-based tissue classification, understanding differential oncogenic wiring, etc., and also image recognition, for example, for automated skin analysis. Now, that's a very small number of examples, and actually the spectrum is much broader. But it's certainly the area where more advanced countries are investing a lot of money, time, to look at primarily the data first before the technology. In particular for artificial intelligence, the United Nations at large sees this as being one of the most revolutionary changes to not only health but also to broader society. The potential for AI in the health domain and advancing the field of digital health is immense. And because artificial intelligence can support medical and public health decisions, making reduced costs everywhere, there is also an inherent complexity in this approach. And it's often difficult to distinguish from good AI solutions to bad AI solutions. And at this point of time, we don't really have a coherent approach. So as such, to tackle this, the WHO and the International Telecommunications Union have developed a focus group specific on the implementation of AI in healthcare, known as AI for Health. And the idea of this focus group is to develop a standard opportunities or a benchmarking framework for algorithms within health, to create a technical framework for assessing and validating the data behind them, and to develop open benchmarks which ultimately will be targeted to become international standards within artificial intelligence within health. So again, we're not taking the approach of being a clearinghouse for artificial intelligence algorithms, but to develop frameworks to actually provide to countries so that they can work with ensuring that there is quality in the algorithm and that we reduce the amount of bias which may be inherent in data. From the Global Conference on Primary Healthcare last year, we also saw that at the delivery of healthcare at the point of care, we see a much greater focus now on the implementation of technology. We did not see this literally 2 to 3 years ago. So again, evidence that the acceleration of digital health technologies is taking hold at every level of the health system. The Astana Declaration, which emerged from this landmark conference in October last year, highlighted the promoting and rationale of safe use of technologies in service delivery and protection of personal data, the need for advances in health information systems, not only at national level, but at region and community level, and the role of technology in improving access, coordinated and efficiency of healthcare and improving the quality and patient safety. When we look more broadly at European trends, globally as well as in European, and the increasing role of technology in health systems, we see that we are actually at a unique time in history, where public health and clinical medicine are converging around genomics, biosensors, smartphone apps, and health data, all enabled by the digital infrastructure which we heard is being built here in Belarus. Together with artificial intelligence, we've been making sense of this overwhelming amount of data that's being collected. Just over a month ago, early February, we collected under a digital symposium looking at the future of healthcare over 50 countries to examine the future of digital health and to draw upon their capacity to understand from a medical standpoint the uniqueness of individual solutions and how they can be adapted further into health systems at large. We examined 21 major topics within health, and we took a very close look at their impact not only from the healthcare perspective, but also from the public health perspective. And what we really, one of the key messages that came through was that the great burden of change is not the hardware, it's not the software. It really is the change required to the processes and the people who have to adopt these changes. There were 3 major messages that really came out that I wanted to share with you. Firstly, Digitalisation in health is challenging our understanding of how and where healthcare can be delivered and is driving a transition to predictive and preventative models of care. This is changes in how and where our health will be delivered, addressing the demands of a digitally enabled population, our children who have known nothing else other than digital devices in their hands since birth. And again, moving from reactive healthcare to predictive and proactive population health and analysis. The second message, digitalisation is not simply a notion of continuing what we're doing now and doing it faster and better. It's actually a complete reinvention of health service delivery, looking at the changing role of healthcare professionals and empowered patients. As was said during the symposium, doctors will not be replaced by algorithms, but health systems that do not use artificial intelligence and technologies will be replaced by those that do not. Also looking at addressing how the rights and consent of the individual can be respected and acted upon, and harnessing the value of health data. The third message, digital health is centrally important to achieving universal health coverage, as I've pointed out before, with more efficient and effective modes of providing quality and equitable access to health for all citizens. However, innovating towards a future enabled by digital health requires concretely linking investments to the achievement of global, national and regional public health goals. Our inability to not do so will ultimately mean that we risk increasing a digital divide and that the benefits of digital health do not serve the populations which is directly meant to receive the benefit. And just to finish up, I'd like to just put up a list of 11 key factors that I've seen in my experience looking at country development underpinning success in national digital health. This is not meant to be a comprehensive checklist, but in my experience, if any one of the factors here are absent, that is when we see failure within digital health. So, from the very aspect of establishing cultures of trust, to broad-ranging infrastructures, to strong political support, these factors are really the secret sauce, as we like to say, in actually ensuring the success of digital health. I'll leave you at that point and say, spasiba, thank you very much, and we look forward to assisting the Ministry in their digital health of the future. Thank you.
Большое спасибо. Одним из важнейших вопросов построения цифрового.
Thank you very much indeed. One of the most important matters of digital healthcare is protection of personal data, safe operation, safe and safeguarded operation of their systems. So the next presentation will be dedicated to the demands, the requirements of information security, the protection of the data in the light of the draft law on personal data. Good morning, dear colleagues. I would like to tell you about the requirements for data protection which are planned in the light of the draft law about to become a law, personal data protection. But before I dwell on the specifics, I would like to tell you about the context, about how this project took shape, about how it took shape. So for this reason, even currently, there is a legislation in Belarus. So you see the 4 cornerstone pieces of legislation which essentially build the industry of data protection, or the domain of data protection in Belarus. So it's different. The core is there are 4 different pieces of legislation. At the core of it all is the law on information, informatization, and data protection. So why is it that important? Besides the principal definition and stipulation of the definitions of key terms, there are also stakeholder cooperation, stakeholder interaction mechanisms which are prescribed. Quite concisely, in a clear-cut manner, the data protection systems, the data protection principles are introduced. This law also identifies the fact that 2 conceptually different types of information exist in the country. This is open information and classified information. So such things as personal data and medical secrecy is part of the second part. It's part of the second type of data. For this reason, all the owners of the systems that process this sort of data, this sort of classified sensitive data, they must introduce certain measures of legal and organizational technical type. If I were to briefly summarize these 4 pieces of legislation, we will see the approach that is about the fact that every system must include, every system that is processing this sort of information must include an add-on for data protection, an integrated perimeter that is going to protect the system itself and the information that flows within it from the external threats. If we were to meet at a similar conference a decade ago, we would have clearly said that this is a relevant approach, we are doing fine. Cutting-edge, relevant approach. However, the world has changed over this past decade. Everything looks pretty much the same on the surface. However, the devil is in the details, as they say. The thing is, from the time of this approach, of these approaches were accepted, there's been a significant change in the domain of informational technology per se. The information systems have ceased to be static. Software is no longer shipped on CDs. It's an ongoing development process around software. It is installed in the information systems continuously. A vivid example of the fact that this tendency is also seen in healthcare is the example of one of the biggest major residents of High Technology Park. The principal business model is about the development and follow-up maintenance of medical information systems for a number of major global clients. The second aspect that testifies to the fact that the approaches need to be revamped, overhauled, is about the fact that contemporary systems, there's been a so-called dilution of the perimeter. So it's a blurring of the perimeter. So to make sure that the work is efficient, that the cutting-edge business processes can be implemented, portable mobile wearables must be introduced. This is also key for medicine, because we are not going to be able to progress further if we force the doctors to be tied to a desktop. The doctors must use wearable devices, portable devices, at the time of visiting the patients. This sort of device must be available to emergency rescue teams, to ICU experts. So this technology is a big issue for people who are dealing with information and data protection in the system-wide data protection. Third aspect is purely commercial. Unfortunately, the cost of development of malicious software, of all kinds of vulnerability exploits and all kinds of things that the bad guys want to tamper with information or to mess with information, the cost of this malicious software development is much lower than the means to counteract this sort of threats. The thing is, what we're seeing today is kind of a military competition of armor versus projectile. And essentially, it's a very important issue. It's a very, very important matter for us. Quite a long time ago, we started to change the paradigm of information protection. It has also coincided, there is a Security Council session of Belarus today, at the same day as us. The key item for discussion is the draft concept of information security of the Republic of Belarus. This concept, this set of concepts, is about declaring contemporary relevant approaches which are going to protect us from current challenges and certain short and mid-term challenges to be seen in the future. Now, switching back to the topic of my presentation, I would like to note that one of the key components, core components of this concept is data protection, personal data protection. The development of this element, more than 2 years ago, Belarus has pioneered work to develop personalized or personal data protection law. The Center for Legal Examination and Expertise have been doing this in tight cooperation with various public bodies. This is a very comprehensive piece of legislation that they've put together, but within the framework of our event, I would like to focus 4 principal pillars, which are highly important for our topic. First of all, the law will provide a more relevant term of personal data. What is PD? Finally, we will take a step forward from the personal registry of population that used to define personal data back in the day. The definition will run as follows. Personal data is any information that allows for identification of a person, or the data which belongs or which relates to the already identified, pre-identified person. This is a versatile definition which will help employ and engage it in practice through various decisions of an authorized body, which must be created, must be established at least according to the draft law which is about to be sent to the floor of the House of Representatives in April this year. Another important point. Several types of personal data are identified in the document. We're missing out on this very much at this point. So first of all, the publicly open data is defined in the law. These are the kind of data that the entity that holds the data have decided to make public. The confidentiality protection principles do not really apply to that. It's public domain information. Further down the line, there's another one, specialized personal data, another type of personal data. This type of PD is the most sensitive for the entity. For example, healthcare, health record, some sexual preferences, all kinds of data, all sorts of information that is critical, sensitive, must be kept private. And number three, there's been a significant overhaul in the mechanism of interaction between the entity of private data and other legal entities, other participants of the legislatory process. The current legislation seems to be declaring and stipulating the rights and duties. Unfortunately, the mechanisms, the actually operating mechanisms, which will allow the physical, natural persons to implement their rights, well, it's not sufficient. This draft law, about to become law, hopefully, will fix that. Another approach is the authority of various entities in terms of their relevance. Relevance of various authorities to personal data protection. The requirements for personal data protection will be applied depending on, first, the type of the personal data I've just voiced, and from the amount of data that is accumulated by the information system. This is paramount because the overarching approach makes data protection costs economically unfeasible. By and large, the process for the approach for personal data protection will be about establishing some small add-on protecting infrastructure for every data holder. And it will not be some kind of standalone system that is out there somewhere. This will be an integrated module, an information system which will be developed, functioning and operating and living a fully functional life within the system. Talking in medical terms, well, I'll try to do that. This protection system will be kind of an immune system. If we were to make medical metaphors, it will help avoid various typical viruses. It will help the information system fight off these viruses, and it will give the experts the opportunity to restore the system if there's been some objective third-party impact which cannot be ruled out for objective reasons. That's it for my part. I'm prepared to take whatever questions you may have. And just a caveat, it's too early to talk about technical nuances, because the Parliament is yet to see the draft law, which is to be sent there next month. Possibly it will be significantly amended before being sent to the floor. Thank you very much. I see a question in the audience. The floor is yours, but make sure you speak into the microphone. I cannot hear the question. Please introduce yourselves. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I've come from Brest. I'm I'm the director of the social institutions, doctors and patients. I have a question, possibly not to you, but to the previous speakers, mostly. What about public-private partnership, PPP, in this domain, in the context of digitization? What digitization is a new black today. It's a very trendy word today. So we are creating a crypto ground mining platform. I've already paid the first money to make it happen. What I'm saying is I could interact with the Ministry of Healthcare. How is Ministry of Healthcare interested in running this sort of cooperation? And by me, I mean my institution, the institution that I head. What kind of institutional benefit can I gain if I were to cooperate with the Ministry of Health, to avoid this wordplay? Okay, let me take that question then. Currently, the entire operation, the entire cooperation on building digital healthcare is built on PPP. All the medical information systems that operate in at healthcare institutions, they have also been created by third companies, by non-public, non-state-owned enterprises, not non-state-owned companies. This will be an ongoing process. Definitely there will be criteria, very strict and stringent criteria and standards identified in terms of cooperation and compliance to these requirements. The compliance to the requirements about to be produced will need to be complied with by every producer and supplier of medical systems. I hope that we can talk privately in more detail with our cutting-edge institution. This is the Republican Scientific and Practical Center of Medical Technology and Informatization. So please get in touch with them and discuss this interaction. Yes, I was mostly referring to the technical part. How do we run this technically? How do we... Well, technically, please, rule number 4, please have a seat there. There will be a conversation happening to you later on, and possibly a meeting happening. Marina, could you please help this meeting happen? Thank you very much, Sergey. Thank you for the information. This information will be used for further work in terms of approaches to the centralized platform. Seeing as how the tender is ongoing, we need to establish very clear criteria to avoid potential mistakes when putting together this digital healthcare platform. Thank you very much for this information. The next presentation will be about the development of e-health projects based on the Belarusian cloud platform. Sergey Prokopov, Deputy Director for Information Technology, B-Cloud Company. The floor is yours. Good morning. Greetings to the esteemed attendees of the forum. On behalf of the B-Cloud company, I'm pleased to welcome you. So today we're talking about information technology, their impact on the healthcare domain. In my presentation, I will briefly talk about infrastructure projects that B-Cloud company runs, which I believe are the platform for the digital transformation. I will also cite some examples of their use in healthcare. As mentioned before, during the forum, the country has identified several priorities in information society development, digital transformation. This is the national information and advisory infrastructure, e-government, e-healthcare. The first two are definitely spearheaded by us. Belarus is indeed ranking up high. Deputy Minister of Information and Communication has already talked about this. So we need to work more on education and healthcare and other spheres. From the time of its establishment, the B-Cloud company has contributed significantly to the local ICT, the domestic ICT development. The infrastructure created by B-Cloud is the core of various implementation of various information projects and informational resources. Particularly, we have implemented a project for the network of Republic-wide data transmission, LTE, Long-Term Evolution Network, 4G. We have established the Republican Data Processing Center, Data Center, and we have created the Republican Cloud Platform. So, in a nutshell, this is about the Belarusian Data Center. It occupies the area of 12 hectares. The total analytical capacity of 7.2, energy capacity is 7.2 megawatts. It is certified tier 3 in terms of design and robustness. It's one of the cutting-edge centers of the Republic of Belarus, data centers in the Republic of Belarus. The Republican Platform project has been implemented. The Republican Platform is geared towards the hosting of public domain information, as well as working and storing classified information. Classes of typical entities, 3DSP, 3FL, and others can be worked on. In early April, we will complete the testing of the system to host this informatization course. Before that, the local entities, the public institutions, had to use their own IT infrastructure. The services rendered by BCloud, we started rendering them back in 2016 as part of the Presidential Edict number 46 and Order 26 from the Operative Analytical Center, built in the 1778 state standard. We are rendering services to the Republican entities based on cloud computing. BCloud is about ongoing development of cloud technologies. It will provide very convenient access by users to a pool of various resources stored in the cloud. Currently, BCloud is based on the Republican Platform. It's infrastructure as a service, IaaS. This is about renting out virtual service, virtual computing infrastructure, data systems. The users are receiving a clean copy of a virtual server with a dedicated IP address and the storage storage capacity to come with it. Backup and emergency restore facilities are also implemented. This segment is one of the biggest and the most boosting 300% per annum growth, rapidly growing industry in the global IT sphere. Second type of services is remote services using software as a service, SaaS. The SaaS approach helps public bodies not buy the software, but use the software as they need it. This is the typical services such as emailing, website hosting. By and large, the Republican system was put together not just to render some basic services, some generalized services. It was geared towards information systems, state information systems to be transformed to it. The switch is happening according to the Order 26 of the Operative Analytical Center, OAAC. And around 39 clients are commercial entities, 39% of clients are commercial entities, 61 are public bodies. Ministry of Taxation, Ministry of Finance, City Executive Committee, State Property Committee, State Standardization Committee, Fund of Social Protection and Welfare of Population. And last year, last year, the Republican Ministry of Healthcare, embodied by the Republican Scientific and Practical Center of Medical Information and Informatization, have started using this platform by us for e-prescription. The cooperation with them is built on IaaS model. Let me briefly talk about the various stages throughout of that project. In fall last year, they approached us to allocate some resources for their platform. After that, BCloud did cost estimates, after which there was a test sandbox created to have a look and look around. The experts looked at it, didn't like something, had a number of meetings, talked about the demands they had, talked about the various capacities of the cloud services and the difference between cloud services and virtualization. These two concepts are somewhat different because virtualization, the one that experts typically perceive as such, is not exactly the case which is being granted as a cloud service in VMware, the virtual machine. There is a number of technical limitations, however, everything seems to run smoothly. So within the framework of this interaction, there was a joint project happening, engaging the Big Cloud experts, the Republican Scientific and Practical Center for Information and Scientific Technology in Healthcare, RSPCs, yeah, NT. So we've held this joint project. We have talked about this e-prescription, how it can be hosted on the premises of Belarusian virtual cloud platform. We've successfully commissioned trial operation, and finally, by year end, last year, we had a signed contract to host these resources on the Republican platform. I believe that the switch to cloud computing significantly facilitated boosting the management and governance of healthcare systems, the resources of the system of healthcare. In principle, the kind of activities that we've seen between Big Cloud and RSPC have indeed laid the foundation for further development, for further construction and digital transformation of the healthcare domain as such. Within the framework of that project, there have been several features. We've engaged certain infrastructure components, the local Bell Telecom-backed, business network-based SOTUR. There are protective data transmission channels to and from the Republican data platform. All these infrastructural bits, with the exception of LTE network, although there was a request for wireless communication, I believe that yes, our client will become mature soon to do the wireless transmission as well. But for now, we can offer a completely seamless solution. The capacities of the Belarusian data center and the Republican platform serve as a very robust platform for digital healthcare. A year ago, our general manager was talking at the forum with showing the same slide as this one here, talking about how we're going to be cooperating and building this platform together using the Belarusian cloud solutions. However, it's the same slide, but not exactly the same. Throughout the implementation of the projects, it is then that we start to realize various peculiar features. The safety perimeter, the security perimeter will be different for every platform, the digital security perimeter. The Big Cloud got expanded through the draft law of Republican draft law on the data protection. All these things put together say that the cloud computing is possible. Cloud technologies must be leveraged for the benefits of healthcare. This will cut costs. This will accelerate the introduction of digital technology in healthcare. And besides, as the speakers before me have mentioned, digital healthcare and the use of cloud technology, given the data aggregation that's going on, will enable running various scientific research using big data to provide projections, outlook, to benchmark new medical technology based on existing data sets. So, using the current toolkits that we have, we are creating unlimited capacities for the healthcare, digital healthcare system as such. All healthcare institutions, with no exception, and their partners have the opportunity to test and run the services of Big Cloud and the Republican platform. I would like to extend gratitude to the RSCPC and to the Ministry of Healthcare. Thank you very much for picking Big Cloud as a trusted and reliable partner. Thank you very much. I invite everyone to cooperation. Thank you so much. We have one more presentation to be delivered. Are there any questions at this point? Thank you. There seem to be none. The next presentation is about open standards on storing data, international exchange. So please, the floor is given to Tomasz Garnik. Tomasz Gornik, the floor is yours.
Good morning. I would like to thank the organizers for the invitation and the opportunity to explain what OpenEHR does. My name is Tomasz Gornik, and I'm the co-chair of the OpenEHR Foundation. It is a 20-year-old foundation running at University College of London in the UK. which sole purpose is to define ways to store clinical data. So I'm also the co-chair of the European Connected Health Alliance, which has ecosystems in 40 European cities, and it brings together gatherings like this, basically academia, clinicians, startups, technologists, to think about the future of digital health. So today I'd like to focus on something which is the foundation for digital health. We're talking about clinical data. We've heard many speakers before me talk about the importance of this data, and I would like to understate that and make sure that we understand that the quality of this data and the amount of this data will be vital to the future of digital health. So it's very obvious that in all industries, not just healthcare, data is kept in an application-specific format. So this means that applications produce data in a format that is proprietary to a vendor. Again, it's true in all industries, not just healthcare. The important thing to realize is that data is much more important in healthcare. Why? Because we would like to keep data for the lifetime of the patient. That's 100 years. There is no way that applications can last 100 years, so data will always outlive the applications. What happens is that we end up migrating data from one proprietary format to another proprietary format every 15 years when we change applications. Now, the good thing is that with some types of data, like images, healthcare has solved this problem 30 years ago. Today, nobody keeps an image in a proprietary format. All modalities and all applications can share images because of a standard DICOM format. The same is becoming true with documents. If you think about CDA or even something as simple as a PDF, it's a vendor-neutral format. The problem is that structured data is still kept in the applications that produce this data. And what OpenEHR does is it takes the structured data out of applications and manages it independently of the software that is running the application. So an architecture, generic architecture, would look something like this. We have three types of data in a vendor-neutral format. We have some common services, an integration bus and APIs, and then applications by different vendors on top of this infrastructure. The important thing to understand here is that we're not talking about just exchanging data. We're actually talking about persisting, storing the data in a vendor-neutral format. Now, this approach was recognized just recently by Gartner as being the foundation of open infrastructures. What Gartner says here is that it's really important to persist, store the data in an open format, not just exchange it using exchange formats and technologies. So this brings us to the format of this persisted data. And as I said before, OpenEHR is a foundation that for the last 25 years has been defining data. It came out of European projects in the 90s, mostly in the UK. And basically it provides a set of specifications on how to manage, persist, and use clinical data. I won't go into details because we don't have time, but the most important aspect of this is that there is a clear separation between the clinical staff which define the models and the technologies which use the models. So, simply put, the models are very rich and they also store the context of the data together with the data itself. Now, this is really important because when we are sending data around, if we don't have the context of a measurement, like the fact that my blood pressure is 120/80, but I was on a bicycle under exertion, if we don't have this information, we cannot interpret the data correctly. So what OpenEHR does is it makes sure that the context of the data is stored with the data itself. And of course, the models in use are universal, free to use, and applicable worldwide. The use cases are always specific to a care setting, a country, a region. That's why we have this so-called two-level modeling, where we have templates which are adapted to the use case, but they all use the same models, which are globally appropriate. So we get what we call a knowledge production environment, where standards bodies set the core models, the terminologies. Governments choose some type of groupings like discharge summaries, and then we leave it to the vendors to build applications and software on top of these models. But because they're underpinned by the same methodology, any type of technology that is used to build these applications, we will be able to query across this data regardless of who built the software. So let me finish with some use cases of where this is put in use. It's now quite widespread in Europe and in parts of Asia and South America. But there's some really large systems, some national systems like Norway, like Malta, like Slovenia, where I come from, like Brazil, like Moscow City, which we will talk about on the next slides. So there's many uses, of course, because health data is everywhere in the healthcare systems, in clinical registries, in shared care records, in systems installed in hospitals, in personal care records, in pharma. All these sub-industries use clinical data, and the smart thing to do is to make sure they base their data on an open format. So hospitals, like the Children's Hospital in my hometown in Slovenia, based on the OpenEHR methodology, they just achieved HIMSS-EMRAM Stage 6, which is a very mature classification of the maturity of use of information technology in hospitals. In the Philippines, 200 clinics which are using this format to actually manage all clinical data. In Norway, the biggest provider of primary care systems and also the biggest provider of hospital systems have decided to use the same models. Now, this didn't come top-down, which is why it's so interesting, but the vendors themselves decided it made a lot of sense to build on the same models and then basically do not need to transform this data when you try to move it around or interchange it. My home country, the country of Slovenia, about 2 million people. The whole infrastructure, since it's based on the same models, they are now able to build registries, preventive care programs like the ones you are proposing here, cervical cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, right on top of this same data. Leeds City, in the UK, a lot of the cities are building shared care records. They are 2 to 4 or 5 million population, and they understand now that as a city they need to take care of the health of the population because the country is really big, so they're focusing at the city level. Genomes, of course, genetics is a big field, and what we do here is that we provide the phenotype data, the data describing the condition of the patient, to Genomics England from 27 large UK hospitals so that they can actually find out what the mutation is causing or vice versa. 8 large German university hospitals, same idea. They need to do joint research. Up to now, they have not exchanged anything. They're normalizing to a common format so that they can exchange data. And these are the large ones, the Heidelberg, Göttingen, Kiel, and so on. So they're using the same architecture, the same standards, IHE, HL7 FHIR to exchange, OpenEHR to store the data, and SNOMED CT as a terminology standard. Medtronic is another one. They are a large device manufacturer, but of course their devices generate a lot of data. Up to now, all of them in proprietary formats. They were actually proud of this fact. But as they need to prove value with their devices, they need to use this data to report, to analyze, to build applications for customers. So they're normalizing it into a common format. Salford Royal, the most mature trust in the UK, is building an ecosystem of apps around this technology because they want to enhance the local economy, build digital solutions, and give them a global market. The one closest to you is the citywide EHR record for the 12 million people of Moscow City. So Moscow City, about 5-6 years ago, understood that they did not want to have one vendor provide all of their functionality. It was too risky. But they did want the data in the same format. So they selected OpenEHR to define all the data for the city's healthcare system. It's about 1,000 institutions, 500, 600 polyclinics, and about 106 hospitals, plus some other smaller units. And the whole idea was that they would provide the infrastructure to vendors who would build the applications on top of this infrastructure, thus eliminating the need for interoperability between proprietary systems. They built very nice dashboarding and reporting on top to manage the whole city from one big data center. And of course, these dashboards are in the mayor's office so he can see in real time how the healthcare system is performing. And they achieved two key objectives. One was 48 hours for the first appointment, and the other was not more than 20-minute wait time for each patient. And I will let the CIO of Moscow City explain it, and he will do it in Russian, so it will be easier for you to understand.
Меня зовут Владимир Макаров, я являюсь заместителем руководителя Департамента информационных технологий правительства Москвы. Моей основной задачей является обеспечение реализации проекта электронного здравоохранения. Забота о здоровье населения в Российской Федерации является традиционной обязанностью государства, в то время как каждый человек имеет право на бесплатную медицинскую помощь в государственной муниципальной системе здравоохранения. Москва, являясь крупнейшим мегаполисом в Европе, чье население составляет 12 миллионов человек, это около 10% населения России, реализует право на бесплатную медицинскую помощь более чем в 1000 медицинских учреждениях, 600 из которых это поликлиники, и остальные, собственно, это стационары и специализированные медицинские учреждения. Собственно, повышение эффективности, обеспечение качества медицинской помощи в настоящее время невозможно без внедрения современных информационных технологий. Собственно, понимая это, в 2011 году Москва запустила грандиозный проект по внедрению электронного здравоохранения во всех государственных учреждениях здравоохранения. Разделение клинических данных от процессов реализации, клинических процессов, которые реализуются в медицинских учреждениях, является критически важным. Современные технологии сегодня дают возможность радикально изменить образ системы здравоохранения, повысить безопасность, эффективность проводимого лечения. Марант, являясь поставщиком, вендором платформы ENG, реализовал в себе все современные средства отделения клинических данных от процессной логики, собственно, что и обусловило использование данной технологии в нашем проекте. Москва очень большой город, и основной вызов, который мы имеем вместе с компанией Марант, это, конечно, масштаб операций. В городе производится около полумиллиарда анализов, лабораторных тестов в год. Около 8 миллионов человек посещает медицинские учреждения в течение года в Москве. Все это порождает огромное количество клинических данных. И обеспечение масштабируемости, ну, наверное, это самый большой вызов, который в настоящий момент времени мы и вместе с компанией Марант имеем.
If you noticed, what he said was that the critical part of the project was the understanding that clinical data needs to be separated from processes and applications, because of what I said in the beginning. It has a very different life cycle. Data has to stay there for the lifetime of the patient, while applications, exchange formats, and mechanisms and technologies will change throughout the lifetime of this data. So, to summarize, I'd like you to think about data first when building the information architecture for digital health. It's also imperative to persist this data in a vendor-neutral format, not just exchange it when necessary. The data format must survive the applications that are actually producing and consuming this data. And the big bang national projects that I've seen are very hard to implement. So it's really important to set a good foundation and then separate the projects into separate parts which share the same data but might have different providers of applications. You have to start thinking about the fact that there is no one vendor which can provide all of the innovation. It's very important to take advantage of the local innovation here in Belarus. You are well known for your expertise in ICT technologies. But the problem is, of course, that if the problem is not breaking down into smaller pieces, it's very hard for companies to compete with big international vendors. So the idea is that we allow for choice at the application level, but we define the data so that we don't have issues with interoperability in the future. And finally, think about the local economy. It's not just Belarus. All of Europe is struggling to provide global vendors in health ICT. The reason is that the US market is about 80% of the world health IT market. So most of the standards are defined there. But we need to find a way for European companies to actually be able to participate. And the only way to do that is to break down the problem into smaller pieces. There is no reason why the next world-class app for a certain vertical, small chronic care management application could not come from Belarus. The whole EHR will be very difficult, but different small parts are definitely possible. And I think as long as you think about data first, you can put an infrastructure like this in place. Thank you.
Большое спасибо за выступление. Есть ли вопросы?
Thank you very much indeed for your presentation. Are there any questions?
Спасибо.
Thank you.
Уважаемые участники конференции, у нас вопрос, пожалуйста.
There's a question. There seems to be a question. Yes, my name is Igor Smirnov. I'm head of the Drive company, our Belarusian company. I would like to know where can we get more information about the project selection platform. Republican Scientific and Practical Center. Ah, right. So they're the ones to go to. Is it publicly available? Yes, it's in the website. Thank you.
Есть ли еще вопросы?
Any further questions?
Уважаемые члены конференции, мы завершили
Dear members of the conference, we have exhausted the first part of the plenary session.
Я хочу
I would like, on behalf of the minister, from me personally, to thank the speakers for their important, timely, contemporary messages. I hope that the information that has been provided to you will serve as a foundation, a platform for further progression of the digital healthcare, digital community of Belarus to prosper, and e-health construction as such. Thank you very much. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I only have to elaborate that indeed the first part of the plenary session has been exhausted. We would like to invite you to our protocol platform to participate in the official opening ceremony of the 26th Specialized Exhibition Healthcare of Belarus 2019. I will remind you that the second part of the plenary session, Technical Solutions for the National Digital Healthcare System, will commence at 2 p.m.